Hello, Alex. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Good to see you today. It's still, well, it's afternoon for us. It's morning for you out in California, right?
Yeah, Southampton, New York,
Oh,
Long
you're in New
Island, New
York.
York.
Oh,
Yeah,
I thought you were in California. Why did I think you were in California?
maybe because I pretend like I'm a Californian.
That's it. I think it might be. Well, thank you for saying yes and joining us today on Michelle's Conversations That Matter. Really appreciate it. The series that I'm doing is really out to elevate this conversation about mental health and hopefully educate people, maybe inspire them, have those kinds of conversations that we're not hearing in the mainstream, to really just help people feel related to. What I do for a living is I help companies shift their culture around mental health and the acceptance of invisible disabilities. And I also teach a resilience program to help people stay empowered, especially now during the pandemic. So let's dive right in. Today, we're going to talk about your story. And I thank you in advance for being willing to talk about your story. We entitled this session, From Addiction to Helping People Heal. Helping people heal people. That's what you do. You help people heal people. So tell us a little bit about who you are, where you live. I think you already told me where you live, and what do you do? Just the fundamentals about who you are so people know who I'm talking to.
Sure. Yeah, so I'm Alex Holt and the founder and managing partner of Limitless Ventures. We're an investment firm in the lower middle market to encourage people or invest in people whose companies are from prevention to long-term recovery in every stage in between. This is a professional and personal journey for me.
It's amazing.
So I'm happy to be here.
That's amazing. And I know one of the things I loved about our initial conversation was just like you were telling me a little bit about your story. And I believe truly in my heart that there is such power behind storytelling to really help people sort of see a thread of themselves in our stories. So that's why I'm grateful that you said yes to being here. So could you take a moment to share with us a little bit about your personal story related to mental illness and addiction so we can get a sense of sort of how you got where you got?
Yeah, I'll give you the short version, right? Man, it's more like a question of not where did it start, or how does it end? Because for me, it's about the journey, not the destination.
Yeah.
And when I remember that, right, I move from here to here.
Yeah.
And, like even today with this and, being in recovery for the last 9.5 years from substance use disorder myself, and having spent 9 years practicing being an active alcoholic, an active drug addict, being in 9 car accidents, 2 interventions, two arrests in different states, FBI, SWAT team, the whole 9 yards. It's not about like how shiny or glamorous or everything it is, or how awful the depths are. It's really about, for me, recognizing the consequences, right, to myself and the people around me, and then having and breathing into the compassion of healing that wound. So today, a simple thing, right? Like I was late, I was overwhelmed, I was running too many things at the same time, as I tend to do. And I was feeling really shameful about, not being here on time. And so in my program of recovery, what we do is we take stock of that and rigorously say to ourselves in an honest way, it's like, okay, like, where was I wrong? And more specifically, where was I selfish and inconsiderate? Because self-centeredness, we think that is the root of our problems. And usually, at least in my experience, right, and for 10 years I did this, is I drank and I like a liter of vodka a day. and I used cocaine, like an 8 ball, 3.5 grams of cocaine a day, every day for years to cover that shame up. And that was just my mechanism. That's just how it came out for me. But today, I take stock of that honestly, and then go to someone and I make amends for my behavior. And I say, Michelle, I'm sorry, I fucked up. Please forgive me. What can I do to make it right? And, graciously, you responded in such kindness, do we still need to do this today? Should we do this later? And I just appreciate that level of compassion so much. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I mean, I guess it really takes something to be in a recovery journey. It's a long process. It's going to be never ending. And my heart goes out to people who have always, who are on that journey, who relentlessly stay on that journey. They might fall down, they might struggle, but they get back on the journey. And so honestly, I applaud you, and you probably represent the hope that so many people who might be struggling need to hear, because they're trying to shoulder it a lot. Were you ever diagnosed with a mental illness that caused you to gravitate to addiction? Because I feel like they always tend to go hand in hand.
Yeah.
That there's always something there that you're trying to sort of numb the pain.
Sure. There isn't like, I mean, the answer is yes, right? So when I was young, I was diagnosed with attention deficit disorder and hyperactivity disorder, and I went to a school for behavioral disabilities, and originally elementary school at a Montessori school, where I was looking out the window all the time and playing with my hands, and got in lots of fights in middle school. My parents divorced, and I was angry. I didn't have a father role figure that I wanted. I didn't know then. All I knew, I was angry. And so it kind of comes out sideways. In fact, many years later, after being in recovery, I was cleaning up my childhood room with my mother, and I found this audio tape, this little tiny audio tape, little wheels spinning, and on the tape it said, I was in 6th grade, and my mother was telling the therapist that I hadn't found drugs yet.
Oh, wow.
But he's really angry, and I went through all the tests, and I had all the challenges, but I fortunately, but that's not what makes me, an alcoholic or a drug addict. What makes me an alcoholic and a drug addict is the way I use substances abusively to cover up those feelings inside, and it's really an inside job. But it's the outside consequences which inform us of how we're doing inside.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always have to look like my life, you could still have the car and the house and the kids and everything else, but dying on the inside and need help. And that's okay. It doesn't have to look like what I would call stage 4 alcoholism in order for you to choose to get better. And I wish I'd started earlier. God, it would have saved myself and my family so much pain.
But it's always perfect where we are. The thing I really loved about what you said when we first started our chat was that you went from here to here. And yeah. I think that was one of the first things I really appreciated about our initial conversation, was that you were so heart-centered. Talk to us a little bit about that heart-centeredness, because I think a lot of us tend to stay up here. I know I stay up here. And when I'm trying to make a decision, it's very easy to be very logical instead of just closing my eyes, taking a deep breath and feeling my heart and really coming from that place within. So share with us a little bit more about why that's so important to you and how did you get there?
Gosh, some say the longest journey is from our head to our heart. I think Thich Nhat Hanh says that. And I was just on the phone with this guy, Louis, who's running a mental health app, Ecological Momentary Assessment, and gamified mental health. And he's like, what we think is in our head. But if we breathe and come back to our heart, joy is something that we can share with a room of people. And I think that, brings me back to this sense of like, in my life, community has been so impactful. Community showed me that I am worth it, right? They believed in me before I believed in myself. And one example of that is when I left rehab after 88 days. I walked out of rehab November 11th, 2011. You know, for some of our numerology fans out there, that's pretty cool.
Wow.
I walked out of the doors at 11/11,
Wow.
5/11s in a row.
Mm-hmm.
It was a total accident. I got picked up by two ladies and brought directly to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and then another member of that meeting brought me to a place to live. Another gave me a haircut, fed me dinner that night, gave me a bike. The seventh gave me a job, and then 13 letters of recommendation followed. And I went to a judge in Maryland and said, you know, I'm a changed person. And the judge said, pay the fine, walk out the door, and don't come back.
Wow.
And so, but this community like took care of me, right? And they said, and I was not doing like a hard job, right? Like I'm folding chairs at a surf shop, you know, and putting shirts on the shelf, right? And now I get to do something much more impactful. But my capacity then was very different. And so I think the ability to have community is critical, and the benefits of a process of recovery, whether it's a 12-step process like I use, or it's something else, whatever works for you, whatever floats your boat, do that. And then I think very important is to have a practice of altruism. In other words, a way to give back, right?
Yeah.
And you know, in my life, that is in part this firm that I've been building over the last 4 years, but it's also just kind of like the service work that I do for young people in recovery. I've started 4 nonprofits to that end over the last 9 years, and some of them are for housing, and some of them are just for dances and fun things and conferences, and I think, you know, service is such an overlooked thing, and it could be as simple as, you know, like taking care of your grandmother.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those I think are the three components that help me move from my head to my heart, right? Community, a process of recovery, and then a way to give back.
Yeah, that's great. That's really great. Tell us about Limitless Ventures.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, that's it's kind of like born from this personal journey. This crazy board member of mine suggested that maybe I focus on addiction and mental health as an investment thesis, and this is all his fault. So Dr. J, if you're listening, thank you. Yeah, you've helped me change my life in a very positive direction. And you know what we do is we've done 6 transactions in the last 4 years now, and we've got 3 more in the pipeline this quarter, totaling over $50 million, and we've got a $250 million in the pipeline for next quarter. You know, our goal is to deploy $4 billion over the next 10 years to create 500,000 recovered lives. And if we can do that, I think we will really have helped people heal people.
Wow. Can you share any examples of how you're supporting organizations that will heal?
Sure. So there's a treatment center down in Florida. They've got 4 locations, and they use music to really engage people. You know, think about, you know, your first 7 days of treatment. I know mine were not that fun. And so like on day 1 or day 7, depending on when you get there, whenever the Friday is, the first Friday, there's Richie Supa, and he's the writer for Aerosmith, right? And so there's a concert of you and 30 other people and staff, and everyone's jumping and yelling, "Dream on, dream on," right? So like that's day 7, you know, like, and celebrate recovery and music. And I think that's really awesome. It's to remember that having fun in recovery is possible. And then there are other things like life science solutions, medical devices that are non-narcotic and non-invasive in nature. And otherwise, you don't swallow a pill. They use acupuncture lines across the meridian pathways and the vagal nerve in order to reduce up to 88% of withdrawal symptoms within the first hour. In other words, we can get you off opioids without using Suboxone and other pharmaceutical methods, which I think is important. And I like to call that principle self-eliminating medicine. In other words, we really encourage you to move to the next step in the detox process, which pharma is not always interested in.
Yeah.
And you know, that's not a shot at pharma. You know, they've done a great job in doing, you know, things like curing COVID, and I think that's really important.
Yeah.
And another solutions, you know, what we're doing is we're building a 40-story building in New York City dedicated to mental health recovery, 350 apartments, a full stack building. So you can literally, you know, walk in, maybe you got that first job, or you want that, you know, you're looking to work for a financial firm or whatever, that next second job, you want a safe place to live. We'll provide that for you in Times Square.
Wow.
We're at a reasonable rent. We're targeting $1,650 a month to have over 220 square feet and a 30-foot kitchen. And we're just, you know, trying to make it possible for people in recovery to re-enter society and to build a better life.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Oh my gosh. What words of wisdom do you have for someone out there who might be struggling, if they're struggling with whether a mental illness and they're covering it up with addiction? Like, what words of wisdom do you have for someone who you think you wish someone would have said to you?
Yeah. Oh God. What could you have said to me? I don't, man, when I was in it, right, like I thought everything I was doing was right. You know, I paid for my friends to go to rehab. I dropped them off at the airport or at rehab. The moment that changed my life, right, wasn't getting arrested, right, wasn't car accidents, wasn't interventions. It was when I had lost everything, and the last person, my hero, the person who believed in me the most, said to me, Alex, you can either go to rehab and I'll drop you off there myself, or I'll drive you to the train station and I'll drop you off there. And this person's my mother. And I could see it in her eye. You know, she was serious, that she was, and I could see the hurt. And for me, it was a very emotional bottom. You know, it didn't matter that I was looking to 5 to 10 years of prison in 2 different states. What mattered is that this woman didn't believe in me anymore. She believed in me my whole life. And I knew I needed to do something. And I'd been to a couple of Alcoholics Anonymous meetings by then. And you know, it was in that moment that I had this little glimmer of honesty that I should go to rehab. And I did. And I think that being rigorously honest, even if it's just for a fraction of a second, can change our lives dramatically.
That's powerful. It takes something to look in the mirror and be honest, or look into someone you love's eyes and be honest.
Yeah.
It's like the epitome of courage right there.
Yeah. You know, and oftentimes I'm too afraid to kill myself and not courageous enough to live. And I get stuck in this loop. And when I break through that with honesty, magic happens.
And what's your relationship like with your mother now? Is she really proud of you for the work that you've done and how you've transformed your life?
Oh, it's amazing. She's my biggest supporter, not just emotionally, but you know, also she's a financial partner in the firm. She is an amazing strategist. If I could just be like her when I grow up, I'd be happy.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Like, that's incredible that you had that moment. I wish that for people who might be struggling. I mean, I think about how the times that we're living in have probably really pushed people to the edge, right? Like with their lives, looking in the mirror, looking at their financial situation, their job situation, their relationships. And my heart goes out to people who are struggling, because I think there's probably more people out there struggling in silence and, you know, trying to self-soothe than really trying to do something about it.
Totally. And that's all I was looking for when I was, you know, drinking and drugging, is that and looking to fill the void, you know, turn the music up and, you know, just make the day go away, whether it's playing video games or, you know, just trying to like find that sense of contentment. That's all I wanted before. Now we can, and the fact of the matter is, it's true. It's right here. It's right available to us. You know,
Yeah.
The crazy thing is I have to do nothing and be honest.
So what are you up to? What's next for you? How do people get in touch with you and want to learn more about your organization?
Sure. No, well, you can find us on limitlessventures.org and, you know, reach out to us there. We're on a number of different podcasts, and we can share those in the show notes or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think, if, you know, you're interested or just want to chat, you know, I'll make myself available and, talk about this or that or life or investments or, recovery. You know, it's a spiritual journey, and I think, you know, it's a we program. And in fact, that was my original website. I did it at limitlessventures.us, because it's a we program.
What any final words of wisdom that you want to leave with the folks who are watching out there?
Well, sure. You know, I would say that, you know, you're worth it. If you're struggling or, you know, something's kind of itching you, you know, remember that you too are worth it, because, you know, you too will soon realize, as I have maybe, that your life experience will be uniquely positioned to help someone that you never thought imagined, or never imagined possible. And when I was getting arrested by the FBI in 2011, right, I thought that my life was over. Sitting in the back of the cop car, handcuffs, and I thought it was done, you know. But now my life is able to take that experience, that pain, and turn it around to help other people. And I've got sponsees in Bogota, Colombia that I've never met, and people, you know, right here in New York City. And it's only as a direct result of you know, being in recovery and dedicating ourselves to helping other people. So if that's any consolation, you know, you're a person of the universe or God or whatever you have you, and you know, I don't always know what the plan is, but I sometimes don't even like it, but the one exists and it keeps on showing itself in amazing ways.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex, for joining us today. Thanks for sharing your story.
And thank you, Michelle, for having me. This was awesome.
Awesome. All right. Take good care. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.